Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
Yeah, well, I was in that transition period. I was in that too young for it when it was on air to actually be a fan, but old enough to know about it. So, yeah, right in the middle. Hey, like I said, it really is the greatest show about nothing. But that's going to be the show after this one. This one, we're going to have a bit more fun, a bit more, shall we say, exploratory on this one. We actually do have a topic, but oh shit. Hang on a second. We got the wrong visuals going. But in order to get the right ones available, there is a bit of something that needs to happen first. So, everyone, take a moment with me and bless the Maker and his water. Bless the coming and going of him. May his passage cleanse the world. May he keep the world for his people. Shai Hulud. This is much better. This is definitely a better view. What do you think, everyone? Does it suit the aesthetic of the franchise that we're going to be hopefully diving into? But before we get to that, bit of an update for everyone, a little bit of a precursor. So, from my understanding, our wonderful guest, Cal here,
hello,
had no understanding, no information, was completely fucking blank before recently watching the 2021 Dune movie. Is that correct?
pretty much.
Well, I put out a challenge through Twitter that I have to say I was not surprised by the couple responses I got, and they weren't wrong. It just, let me put the challenge simply. Using only the on-screen material from the 2021 Dune movie, tell me what was going on. The who, what, where, and more specifically, why.
So, part one, I believe, is supposed to be about the fall of House Atreides at the hands of the Harkonnen. By, according to the movie, at least, this one, the will of the Emperor and the will of the whatever religious sect those witches were a part of. I don't think I remembered their name.
The Bene Gesserit. Now, here's
Yeah.
here's the thing about the Sisterhood. They really didn't give a fuck about the House Atreides. They really don't give a fuck about any of the houses, as long as they have access to that genetic stock. That's their main thing. That's what they're mainly concerned about. Because aside from their own abilities and capabilities through the Acolyte process, the Sisterhood is a glorified eugenics program.
Oh. Which is why they absolutely hated the fact that the female hierarch, the concubine for the House of Atreides, had a boy instead of a girl.
Correct. See, this is actually the point that I was really driving at with the challenge and even asking people. if you had zero knowledge of Dune going into this movie, I highly suspected that, yeah, you may enjoy the movie. Yeah, you may get a very surface understanding of the basics of what's going on. But are you going to truly understand why things are happening?
Probably not.
Well, here's a question just to follow up on that. Why did the Emperor give House Atreides the fiefdom of Arrakis?
According to what was going on, like behind the scenes with the Harkonnen, the Atreides was sent there to die because the Emperor, as quoted by the leader of the Harkonnen, was the Emperor is a very jealous individual. As to why that is, I don't think that was explained.
It wasn't. And this is one of my criticisms about the newer movie when you compare it to even the 1984 movie. The Emperor does not appear on screen in the 2021 movie. He does appear on screen in the 1984 movie and actually adds to the story, adds to the explanation of why are things happening, why are these decisions being made, and actually starts to get into those political machinations that are going on in the background. Which, spoiler alert for those who haven't been aware of the Dune franchise for a while, at its core, it's a political thriller in a sci-fi setting.
Yet they've decided to take the 2021 version and make it into more of an action thriller.
Well, you still had the action, but yeah, they focused more on the action than they did the actual political intrigue and the motivations of differing parties. And I think that they could have still touched on those topics while keeping good pacing of the movie. And there are other issues with decisions that they've made that, Leon and I are in agreement on, and there are some people who are willing to just hand wave it or don't see it as much of an issue, which is actually where my challenge came from.
Because people just did not really care about that being an issue, with so much being missing from the story in comparison to the 1984 film.
Well, I suspect some of it has to do with some of the people who have given the movie that level of a pass. It's because they know enough about the background, they know enough about the lore, that they already know what's going on, so they're able to... They know, and they're already applying that extraneous, that extra knowledge that they have from other sources, and can still just enjoy the movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the movie is a bad movie.
It's just lacking for newcomers to the franchise.
It's just not Dune.
It's Dune in name. It is a Dune veneer, but the story that actually drives the franchise, in my opinion, was lacking. Because taking this movie, taking someone who has never been exposed to Dune, and this is their introduction, holy shit, are they in for a rude awakening when or if they try to read the source material.
Oh boy. I can't wait.
Well, let's actually just go for a round of questions to see what you've understood of the movie.
Okay.
What is the connection between the Atreides and the Harkonnen?
Was that explained in the movie?
If you can't answer it, No, it wasn't.
Oh, well, at least not well enough. There were mentions in the movie to a blood feud between the houses,
Oh.
It was not
but
just a blood feud.
exactly, there wasn't much more than that being mentioned in passing.
Yeah, because, like, oh, hey, there's some kind of conflict going on between these two factions within the Empire. Okay, cool. Moving on.
Yeah, because something that should have been explained at that point in the movie is that, the fat dude floats around, hides in ceilings,
Uh-huh.
sends deed around prisoners and stuff like that. He has a daughter. His
Oh,
daughter
that was not
happens.
explained at all. That
What?
wasn't even mentioned in the movie.
Wait, Leon. Do we want to put up the spoiler alert warning for people who are uninitiated?
If they haven't read a book that's been out for 40 years, or even longer,
Then that's kind of on them.
yeah. And given that the new movie just has 70 things that are in the book, or are changed from the book, I don't know that it's not necessarily a spoiler. It's a spoiler for the book itself.
Well, with at what point in the story they are with the movies? Well, with the movie, they're not at the point that this revelation has been or should have come out in the movie, in the film. This is why I ask. Is just it kind of. I agree. If you are interested in the franchise and haven't even begun to read the books yet, even if it's through audiobook, kind of behind the game, so it is what it is for you not reading it sooner, depending on your age. But at the same time, this is something that should come up in movie 2, but I have a feeling it won't.
So, yeah. The flying fat dude has a daughter. He even has a grandchild. But the daughter happens to be someone that we actually see a lot in the movie. And the grandchild is someone that we see even more. Do you recognize the lines on the faces? Don't you recognize the family lineage? Your father is Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Lady Jessica is the daughter of Harkonnen, or of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
Jessica and Paul are Harkonnen?
Paul
Half.
Paul is both. Paul is both Harkonnen and Atreides.
Is this something to do with the blood feud?
This has to do with the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because
boy.
Let's go back even a step further in the lineage. Not only is Lady Jessica the Baron's daughter, guess who her mother is? The mother.
Witch.
Yes. Not just that witch. And this is where they really missed out by not mentioning the Emperor, but the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother who came to interview Paul, it really was a big thing for her to be the one to interview Paul for a couple reasons. One, she's the Emperor's truth sayer.
Okay.
So she is seen as the most adept truth sayer throughout the entire known universe. She is the one that is right at the side and in the ear of the Emperor himself. Part 2 to this. So we know that Jessica is the child of the Baron. Well, Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Moheim was the one to do the deed with the Baron.
Twice.
And, cherry on top, the reason why the Baron requires a repulsor belt in order to move around is because the Reverend Mother infected him. Intentionally. Because he's a fucking bastard.
Okay.
Yeah. And the whole reason that they really wanted this to happen, or the reason that they wanted that child, was to then pair that child, a girl, with who was it? Was it the Baron's
Fade.
other kid?
Fade Root? No,
Yeah.
not the Baron's other kid, is the
His
Baron's nephew.
cousins. Nephew.
Yes, both Raban and Fade are the nephews of the Baron. The Baron himself never took a wife. The Baron himself never really took a concubine because he had other proclivities.
Yep. However, that's kind of where a lot of the Dude crux actually comes in.
Be right back.
Yep. But much of the reasoning for Paul being so important isn't because he's supposed to be this, he's supposed to be that. Lady Jessica decided to have a child out of love with now what's it called? With Leto, or Duke Leto, instead of having a daughter as she was supposed to. Had she had a daughter, that daughter would then have gotten married to Fade Rauta and potentially have produced the Kwisatz Haderach. As it is instead, she had Paul. She had a male. And that's kind of why Paul, in this case, is also being trained to be a mentat. That's why he's being trained to, use all of his mental faculties. But that isn't really explained so far, is it?
No, it's not.
So you can see kind of why we're talking about this, because when Paul and Lady Jessica fled out into the desert, they crashed, and Paul got his first real hit of all the spies. His mind started just going amok.
Oh, his visions of the war against the Harkonnen in the name of his dead father.
Oh, not really visions per se. It's essentially like backwards memory.
Oh,
He
like
could
this
see
is going to happen?
potentially, yes. It is one
Oh.
future. It is one line that could potentially happen.
So it's along the same lines as that one vision where that one warrior potentially kills Paul in one-to-one combat.
Yes.
Where this can happen, but you must steel yourself to change that.
Or rather, it's something that can happen, but if it didn't do that, things would have still gone to shit. So he had a choice. Either he killed Jamis, or he didn't kill Jamis, let himself be killed. No matter what, the Holy War, the Crusade, would still have gone on. The Crusade would still have happened. He was put in a lose-lose position at that point. But that's something. When he first got that real hit of spice, he became hyper-aware. Essentially, everything with his mentor training, everything from the spice just doing its thing, all of that just kicked in. And he started to see things. Things started to get really clear to him. Such as Lady Jessica, looking at her face, she has the family lines, the appearance of an Harkonnen. And Jessica didn't know that herself. She wasn't aware.
Why
That's
was
something
she
that,
not aware of it?
Well, when she was born, she was just taken away to be raised in Bene Gesserit, in the Sisterhood.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't know that. She didn't know anything really about her parents. Not at that point. That's why so many of these things are important to tell from both a narrative and a political standpoint in the movie. And also why it's so sad that these aren't being brought up.
So there is really so much missing from the 2021 movie that makes the 1984 movie look good in comparison. And there's probably still some details missing from the 1984 movie in comparison to the source material.
There's a fuck ton missing in a 1984 movie. But they at least, despite everything within the monologues and stuff like that, they got most of it right. They didn't get all of it right, but they got a lot of it right. And that's why you have something that it can seem really unimportant, but it's really important to actually bring it up. Something that isn't in the 1984 version, at least not that I remember, is a scene with the courtyard, with the palm trees. I take it you remember those?
Yeah, I did see multiple people. However, they were all behind those grated window things, all caged up and kept at a distance.
But why are the palm trees there?
Symbol of power.
But what did they say in the movie?
I don't think I caught why they were there, but that thing with takes what 5 people's worth of water per tree, and there's 20 of them there.
Yep. But in the movie, they say it's a symbol of hope.
Ah, that's right, symbol of hope.
Yeah, which it isn't. The people, the pilgrims who are supposed to be out there, have very mixed emotions in regards to the trees themselves. Some look at it with disgust. Some look at them with hope. Not for the trees themselves, not for the future of Arrakis, but hoping that maybe a date will fall down. Hoping that maybe the trees will bear fruit, despite it being out of season. That has nothing to do with hope for the planet. That has nothing to do with hope for anything else that isn't just related to very selfish goals right away. But this is one of the issues with everything really that happens in the movie. It's not so much that they aren't telling a good story. Well, I guess kind of good story. But it's mainly that they don't know how to fit the story together.
They're not telling a complete story.
Yeah. And the various elements that they have mixed together, when you look at them in their totality, they don't add up. The various elements, when you start looking at it, end up being more and more disjointed. They end up being more and more jumbled in what actually happens. Which in turn just means that if you try to follow the line from one point to another, it doesn't add up. Each segment is in and of itself kind of good, but all taken together, no. Oh, that was another thing there too. What was it? There's one more thing we've been complaining a lot about.
Would that be the lack of backstory and everything about Yui?
Yes, that's the one. With, okay, Cal. Who betrayed House Atreides?
The Dr. Yue.
Why?
Because the Harkonnen have his wife, was it?
It was some female in his family. It was either his wife or his daughter.
Why is that a big deal?
Hmm. Why is it a big deal that Yue got wrapped up into all this?
Yes.
That I don't think was explained in the 2021 movie.
It was not. And that's part of the introduction we get to the wonderful Dr. Wellington Yui in the book. And even it is even mentioned in the 1984 movie. Notice how he had that odd tattoo on his forehead?
The diamond?
The diamond, yes. That diamond is the symbol of having completed the Imperial training to be a Suk doctor, which makes you... It is supposedly to show that you are of such benevolence, trust, and ability that you could even tend to the Emperor himself. You are uncorruptible by training.
So he went against his training?
The Harkonnens broke him.
Oh.
That's not just training. That's supposed to be impossible to do.
And
Yeah.
the Harkonnens have somehow managed to do that.
Correct.
Yep.
And a wonderful little addition to Yui's interpersonal relationship with Lady Jessica. It was his wife that the Harkonnens had captured, used as collateral, and then killed. The wonderful little addition to this is that his wife was a Bene Gesserit acolyte.
Oh.
Well, yeah, Rodin. Of course it was in the miniseries. The miniseries was, story-wise, verbatim the books. They just didn't have the budget to do the graphics.
Sadly.
Rip.
Jay?
Yeah.
Your microphone is bleeding through a lot there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No, but even then, there is a plot, or rather, one of the plot points in the book is that they know that they have a traitor. They don't know who it is. That's something that, in the book, becomes a major plot point later on. It's something that becomes a major, not issue, but a major contention between two of the characters later on, Lady Jessica and Gurney Halleck. Because the way that shit happens here, they don't show any of the issues. They don't show any of the suspicions. Not directly.
No, and that was a big thing, is Lady Jessica was suspicious of Yui because she saw there was something there. When Yui would mention the Harkonnens, that there was a particular hatred there, and she was wondering what it came from. But Gurney, with all the suspicions of there being a spy and someone wanting to help assist in killing the Duke, Gurney suspected Jessica because she's a Bene Gesserit, and her loyalty, from his point of view, was to the Sisterhood over the Duke. When, in actuality, Jessica's loyalty was to the Duke first, to the Sisterhood second, which is why Paul was born in the first place.
And Gurney was the security officer?
That was Thufir. Thufir, the shorter, more rotund guy in the film that you
Yeah.
barely saw, that you barely got any information about. Yeah, that was another travesty of their missing opportunities in storytelling. Thufir was the main securities and education person for the household and Paul. Gurney was essentially the field general. He was
Oh, the tactics trainer.
yep, and
Paul.
and Duncan was the combat arms instructor.
Which Duncan also had issues with Lady Jessica, but he didn't really bring it up to her directly until one night he'd been out drinking.
Which was not shown at all.
Nope. And to be honest, though, with fucking Jason Mimosa there, I don't think I'd want to see that anyway. But you have all these elements there. You have an intrigue. You have just so fucking much there that isn't explained. Do you remember the bull's head and the statue?
Yeah, the taxidermy bull's head.
Why is that important?
Why did the camera focus on that?
Okay, so here's another question. Whose grave did the Duke and Paul go visit before they left Caladan?
Was it Paul's grandfather?
Yes, the previous Duke. What was on his tombstone?
Oh, I think that may have been out of focus or just missing altogether.
No, they actually showed it. They just showed it very quickly and in passing.
Oh, God.
On his tombstone was a visage of a man bullfighting.
Oh.
It was the prior Duke. The prior Duke died due to an injury suffered bullfighting. The bull's head that travels with the family from Caladan to Arrakis
Was the bull that killed the
prior
previous
Duke.
With the blood still on the horns.
I don't think I saw the blood on the horns.
It could even be that they didn't actually add it in because reasons.
Yeah, because it would have triggered somebody, which is absolute dog shit.
In Dune, a movie where they should be killing someone, taking their body to be recycled essentially, which means draw all fucking resources out of it, especially the water. Yeah.
And turning the solid mass into effectively nutrient paste.
Not so much there. What's left is pretty much dust. They're very efficient with that.
Oh, so they just extract the water from the human body.
Pretty much all of it. Because water on Arrakis is important. Something that is so important that one of the scenes in the book is about a banquet after the Atreides had moved to Arrakis. And they found out it's customary to have one of these banquets, well, at times. Do you want to take that, Jared?
Yep, so we got a $5 Aussie super chat from Davros, you fucking bastard. My tombstone will say, "You may park your bike here. Hello, burger boys." Sounds like someone's having fun.
You good, Jay Brown?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Now
It's still hot.
yeah, your noise gate is off tonight.
I'll take a look at it.
So then, going back to the banquet scene. At the banquet, the family actually learns more about the shit that's going on Arrakis they learn more about the family structures, the societal structures, how things are being done. And one of the people that's there is a water trader who's, well, a rich motherfucker when it comes to Arrakis. Water is worth its weight in gold.
Some would
And
even say more so.
yeah, water is
And
life.
in some cases, it'd be quite literal.
Yep. And with this, they're talking about shit. And the water trader is being not disrespectful, but a bit of an ass. Because he knows he has power, he has water. Other people can't really do anything about it. And the same attitude is among them, or among a lot of the other people there. They have power, they have water, they don't give a flying fuck about the rest of the people. Which means that one of the rituals during this banquet is to wash your hands often, or wash your hands and face often, and then wipe it off on, well, essentially tissues, and then throw them on the floor. They throw them on the floor so that the staff can then pick it up after they're done and take that water home. Something that the Atreides family did instead of with this was that they said, yes, we're not gonna have this. We're gonna abolish this shit because it just isn't right. Anyone who comes to the house tonight can ask for a glass of water and get it. And the water merchant, the other people, they weren't happy about it. Why would someone just give away such valuable stuff? Why would someone just give away water? And that's something that created more and more contention between Atreides and the other, well, higher up families there. The upper class, the upper middle class. But that isn't explained in the movie at all. It isn't even being brought up.
The only
You have,
banquet scene was with the death of the Duke.
yeah,
Oh, that wasn't even really a banquet. That was just the Baron gloating.
and I'd still say that wasn't necessarily handled in
The
the
best
right
way?
way either. Yeah. No, but you have these things. You have the moments that define that define the family. They tell you how the family works. They tell you what the family is. If you look at something like the Spice Harvester scene, what, or rather, did you say, or did you see any tension in it? Would you say that was something that felt like, at the time, something was awfully wrong?
Something wrong with the spice harvester scene?
So, recall the scene where the Duke, Gurney, Paul, and Dr. Liette Kynes go on their, oh, what was it? Their inspection trip. And they go out to monitor and inspect spice harvesting operations.
Okay.
The scene went about it a different way than the 1984 movie or the book. You remember the first appearance of the worm?
Yeah, it was
That scene.
off in the distance.
Well, not just that it was off in the distance, but that whole scene, that whole premise of the spice harvester working, calls for the carryall, has issues, so they got to offload. They have to deal with the situation before the worm gets there and destroys everything. The 1984 movie was more accurate to the book than the 2021 in both the stakes and what happened and how.
So, what was supposed to happen?
The way it took place in the book in the 1984 movie, the carryall, the craft that actually lifts the harvester and transports it,
Yep.
didn't show up.
Oh.
Which is immediately a sign of foul play, not just mechanical issues. Because the carryall is always supposed to be there because it has to pick up the harvester in a reasonable time once worm sign is detected so you don't lose the harvest. Now, and the other change from the book in 1984 movie to the new one is Paul did not leave the ornithopter. He got the whiff and that strong hit of the spice, the unrefined spice, just simply by standing in the doorway. So that whole thing about Paul walking towards the harvester, having that hallucination, and Gurney having to run out and get him, didn't fucking happen in the book.
So he was still in the ornithopter when that scene was supposed to happen.
Yes. And it was better portrayed in the 1984 movie, by my opinion, how the Duke... Oh, we'll get to another little facet of the society in a second after this one. But it was this handling of the encounter with the worm that really showed people like Kynes and other people who were skeptical why the Duke is so loved, because he puts people before anything else. The Duke saying, to hell with the spice, in terms of if the choice is to save the spice or to save the people, he will always choose the people.
Because equipment is replaceable with enough time and money.
It is easier to replace equipment than it is to replace people.
Because if you lose enough people, you lose their skills.
Yep. And it takes time to replace someone, whether they're in a skilled trade or not. Biology is a thing.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, as they were getting to the area and the Duke saw the worm sign and it was called out, there's a reward that goes out to the spotters. The first one to actually spot and call confirmed worm sign, you get a bonus.
How much of a bonus?
What was it? The equivalent of 10 days worth of water?
I
Wow.
can't remember if they directly say it in the book.
It was in that realm of it more than doubled the pay. It was significant. The Duke split it up against the entire crew. But let's save them first.
Do you want the quote?
Go
from
for it.
movie? Kynes hesitated and then lifted microphone. Spotter credit to the Duke Leto Atreides. The Duke Leto Atreides, over. The voice from the speaker was flat and partly distorted by a burst of static. We read and thank you. Now tell them to divide the bonus among themselves, Halleck ordered. Tell them it's the Duke's wish. Kynes took a deep breath, then, it's the Duke's wish that you divide the bonus among your crew. You read, over. Acknowledge and thank you, the speaker said. Because the whole thing now, or the whole thing with, well, the House Atreides at this point in time, is loyalty. They're always trying to be loyal. And that's what really won a lot of people over. Even Kynes, later on in the same page or later on in the same chapter, says,
Against all better judgment, I'm beginning to like this Duke.
Yeah, and even before that, and Kynes, returning to Stair, found himself troubled by a fact he had observed here. The Duke was concerned more over the men than he was over the spies. He risked his own life and that of his son to save the men. He passed off the loss of a spy scroller with a gesture. The threat to men's lives had him in a rage. A leader such as that could command fanatic loyalty. He would be difficult to defeat. And that's really where, that's House Atreides. That's how they were in Caladan. That's what they're trying to instill on Arrakis. Because on Caladan, despite what you can see in the movie, it's supposed to be a flourishing space, a flourishing place. It's supposed to be, apart from the fortress there or the palace, it's supposed to be a fishing village, essentially. It's supposed to be more a place of, well, joy and merry than it's supposed to be just fucking doom and gloom.
Think Paradise Town, Resort Town on the French Riviera or somewhere else in the southern Mediterranean. That quintessential view of Mediterranean beauty and warmth and just lavish life, but not just for a select few, for everyone.
Yeah, and both the Baron and Paul were just out and doing shit. They were out there, they were working with the common people. They didn't like to be seen as just above them. Sure, you do have the hierarchy, but you still need to command the respect of the people. If you are to do this shit, you need to show that you are one of the people. You need to show that you are actually willing to do the same as they do. And that gives you the respect, because they know who you are. They know that you're willing to do this. They know that you're not just stuck up, that you're not just someone that sits in a fucking tower all day.
He is a man of the people, and that frightens me, because a man of the people is very, very tough to defeat. That might not be an exact quote of the Padishah Emperor, but pretty damn fucking close.
Yeah.
Although I think that line was actually from the House prequels, not the first book itself.
House book Harkonnen?
Either Harkonnen or Carino. Been a while since I've read those, but I got them right there. They're in my stack to get back into reading soon.
Regard your men as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even until death.
That is the Atreides mentality. That is why their troops were feared on par with the Sardaukar, not because of their training, but because of their devotion.
Their devotion to the people.
Their devotion to the Duke because of his treatment of the people.
Yeah, which, speaking of that, Duncan Idaho wasn't part of House Atreides to begin with. He is essentially an adoptee into the house. He started off among the Harkonnen after being, kidnapped? Bought?
Bought, used as a slave, was too much trouble, so he ended up as essentially a target of the training Sardaukar, and who escaped and ended up at Ginaz to become a sword master. Yeah, Duncan is quite the guy when you actually look at his background, and it shows that Momoa's portrayal is off.
Jason Momoa was the Duke's right-hand guy, wasn't he?
Duncan Idaho. Has more camaraderie with the Duke than Thufir or Gurney, but they were essentially the triumvirate of support for the Duke and Paul.
Okay, so Jason Momoa was Duncan Idaho in this movie, and he was also Ronan in Stargate Atlantis.
Yes, and it was Halleck.
Aquaman.
It was Halleck that was the Harkonnen slave, which is why he hates him so much. But Idaho was, growing up, had to deal with the Sardaukar, and then to Ginaz for training as a sword master, which is why he was so... He was the sword master of House Atreides. He was actually a sword master of Ginaz.
Yeah, these things are, I'd say, not at fucking all portrayed in the movie whatsoever, which is sad.
Well, I will give the movie and the production crew this. There is a lot of fucking backstory that you could cram in, but if you were to really fit in all those details and everything, you're looking at easily a trilogy of 3-hour movies just to get through the first book.
There's a lot.
Which, yes, it is intimidating. Yes, there is a lot of exposition and a lot of information in the Dune books. But it does pay off long term. I know a lot of people, I even admit it, I even don't even try to deny it, that the first third of any Frank Herbert book, especially the Dune series, if it was written by Frank, the first third of the book is tough to get through because he is setting up everything that has happened in the time between the last book and that one, or just establishing things. There's a lot of framework that he's building, and that can be very dry. It can be slogging. But once that framework's there, and then the mechanism really starts moving to where you actually see how everything is starting to come together, the pacing takes off, because now he's starting to pay off all those setups. Now you're starting to see the connections of, oh, that was why this was important. That's why this was referenced. That's what... It all starts coming together towards the end, that by the end of the book, you're sprinting and you don't want to put it down. And then it's, the fuck? What happens next? It leaves you wanting more if you actually enjoy the story.
Uh-huh.
Actually, no. It's Duncan Idaho.
Duncan?
He's taken in slavery at age 8. He was used by soldiers as prey and hunts at, or rather on Harko.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, because he started off on Gidi Prime.
Yeah, see, this is why I need to get back. So, an idea that I had that I wanted to do starting a couple years ago, which I started but ended up getting pulled away from, fucking life, is actually going back through the entire Dune series, rereading the entire saga, but as I'm doing it, make a fucking notebook of what actually happened when, and actually do a coherent timeline and web of what was taking place when and where, and players involved, and actually getting some sort of visual representation, because you want to talk about a Gordian knot of fuckery going on. That is probably the best way to describe it, because other than the huge time jump, I'm including the Brian books, Brian and Kevin books in this, because while the writing style and storytelling style was close to but different than Frank's, the base storyline actually coalesces because they were utilizing Frank's original notes for the story points and the main plot points. Frank Herbert likes to do circular things. Something that's set up at the beginning always comes back around to pay off and always has some connection to the end game that he sets up. That is something of his writing style that is true for all of his writings. So the whole...
Like poetry.
Yeah. So the whole mentioning of... in the Orange Catholic Bible, the number 1 commandment being, "Thou shalt not make machine in the image of a human mind." The whole thing against AI, against thinking machines. That came around for a reason, and it was during the Butler and Jihad trilogy that Herbert's son and the ghostwriter Brian J. Anderson wrote, where we actually get into that actual time frame. And that's actually where the conflict between the Harkonnens and the Atreides begin. And so it does work out that a lot of people don't like the end of the series. Ooh, here's a fun question. Hey, Cal, so far, who do you think the main character in the series is, or going to be?
This movie definitely focused the most on Paul and Jessica, at least after the Duke's death. As for who's going to be the main focus in part 2, ooh, it's probably going to be that one girl with Paul. That one younger lady. Chani.
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 The one that Paul kept having the dreams about.
Yeah, her.
So
she's going to be the main with Paul.
Here's the thing with the books. Chani is a side character. Her main purpose in the story is that she grounds Paul. She is his anchor to the now. At least okay. I think that's how he phrased it. Because as Paul progresses, as Paul's powers present, he at certain points has often appeared to be dazed and lost in thought, where he's actually going through his prescience and seeing both the past and future and trying to make sense of it all and actually react accordingly. But a de facto lead character for the first 2 books especially is Paul.
Okay.
But in book 2 is where we have fun, and it changes and it shifts from Paul to his kids.
Oh.
One of them ending up as Duke, God Emperor Leto Leto II of House Atreides.
God Emperor?
Yes. Leto II lives for a number of thousands of years. So book 2 is Dune Messiah, which is more about Paul's rule as Emperor of the known universe after his jihad that he's having nightmares about in the first movie. And after Messiah goes to Children of Dune, which is about his kids, twins, which Leto and Guyama. After that, you get to God Emperor, where you actually have a sizable jump in time between Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune, where now you're towards the end of the God Emperor's rule. And to say that he has had fun with a particular character who has persisted throughout because sci-fi. This is why I really did not like the casting of Momoa as Duncan Idaho.
Oh, that Duncan Idaho was one of Leto II's buddies?
Comes back. So,
Again.
and again.
And again.
And again.
And again.
Oh my god!
So-
Why is it Duncan?
So, okay. Well, this is where Dune Messiah, there's something that happens that is... it brings more factions of the known universe into play. So, remember that really creepy creature that was hushed off by the Reverend Mother in the movie when she went to go meet with the Baron and his mentat?
Oh, that spider-looking pet thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an Easter egg / nod / foreshadowing of another faction that's going to come into play, especially in Book 2, especially in Dune Messiah. The Bene Lelax. Essentially Dune's equivalent of the Gene Stealers.
Oh.
These
I think they're
motherfuckers.
fucking worse though.
Oh, I would agree, because oh god, is this segment of borderline humanity really fucked up. But they are masters of medical technology in the eyes of the wider Imperium. In Dune Messiah, one of the factions that wants to assassinate and get rid of Paul as Emperor attacks Arrakeen with a stone burner. Think atomic weapons on steroids. During the attack, it kills a lot of people. It severely injures and maims Paul to the point where it melted his eyes.
Oh.
But, due to his powers, Paul could still see. He could see without eyes due to him being the Kwisatz Haderach. Part of the donation from the Lelaxu to the Imperium to curry favor with the Emperor, they donated replacement eyeballs and replacement organs to all those affected by the attack, including Paul. But Paul declined the offer. Instead, they ended up giving him something else. A servant. A slave. A regeneration of Duncan Idaho. Of Duncan Idaho with no memories.
Oh no.
The purpose. It gets better. The purpose of this being that is called a Gula is, at some point, the clone is going to, the latent training is going to trigger, and Hoyt is going to kill Paul. That's what the Lilaxu wanted. That was their long game. Paul became aware of this. Paul had a theorem that he wanted to that he ended up testing out on Hoyt, that memory is genetic. You are a perfect replica and copy of Duncan, Idaho. So, how can we awaken your memories and return you to who you really are?
Ooh.
And it was the moment where Hoyt was going to kill Paul that this crisis, this internal mental crisis and schism happened, which is what allowed the genetic memory and the actual personality and full knowledge of Duncan, Idaho to reemerge. And because this was successful, that whole process is what essentially turns Duncan, Idaho into a perpetual.
And he just keeps coming back after that?
Yes. And because the God Emperor, Leto II, wishes it. Despite him in some of his animalistic rage, we'll explain in a moment, would actually throw his body against Duncan every now and then, like a few thousand times in a row, killing each one and bringing them back just because, oh shit, I didn't want to do that.
So Leto's a fucking retard.
No. Oh, no. It's not due to that. During Children of Dune, the twins are targeted for assassination because they are the next in line. They are the rulers to replace Paul. They have genetically engineered... How would you describe them, Leon?
Genetically engineered to be lemmings?
Oh, no. These are... I'm talking about the creatures that were sent after the twins to hunt them down and kill them. Think saber-toothed tigers, but leaner, meaner, and could camouflage themselves.
Oh, God.
I don't even know really if that's an accurate description of them.
It gets the idea, though.
Monsters.
It gets the idea, though. And they were sent to literally hunt down the twins when Paul ended up not being there, and Alia, Paul's sister, took over as regent. She started to go insane. Other reasons. More fun that we can get into later. But
Wow.
while the twins were on the run, instead of relying on a still suit to survive in the desert, Leto II does something ingenious. He found a bunch of sand trout, which are the precursors to the worm. This is where we learned that what the sand trout do is they actually gather and trap and act as the barrier subterranean water so the worms can live in the dry sand.
Oh.
What Paul does is covers himself in sand trout that end up infusing with his skin to work as a living still suit.
Didn't you mean Leto?
Leto the second, yeah.
You said Paul.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And then from that, as he goes on, over time, because he has become one with the sand trout, he becomes a giant fucking worm himself with a human torso and head.
Oh.
This just gets a lot worse if you're imagining trout, as in water trout, covered in sand, and then someone super gluing them onto themselves.
Don't worry, duct tape physics is everything. Fuck it.
It's Florida Man Diglito.
It's It's T.E. Lawrence!
Yeah. There.
But yeah, at that point in time, he's not even human anymore. As in, he might look it, but there's nothing human left there.
No,
And that goes on.
I believe the saying was, he's more beast now than man.
Yeah, but even looking at it, when he had finally taken the, well, full worm form, essentially, it's a giant fucking worm with a human face on it. And maybe arms.
So
The face didn't really have anything else behind it. It wasn't really a skull. It was just something there to mimic a face.
So he just rejected humanity at that point. And stopped being Paul Atreides.
Well, stop being Leto. So, and here's part of it was intentional, because there really is a schism. There was something that both Paul and his son Leto II saw that needed to be done for the greater good of humanity, and Paul could not do it, but Leto did. And that was a reference to the Golden Path. There's been mention elsewhere in people talking about Dune and the greater, longer story arc about how the God Emperor pretty much handcuffed and stunted humanity. No more interstellar travel. No more travel by mechanized conveyance. You had to walk everywhere. There was some interstellar travel allowed, but it was very fucking rare, especially for your average person. Leto did it to put humanity onto the Golden Path. It's also why he made a lot of changes. So one of the groups that we should be introduced to in the next movie are the Fedakin, the personal guard of Paul, who end up becoming the elite police force of the known Imperium while Paul is Emperor. Leto replaces them with a group called the Fish Speakers. The Fedakin were all men. The Fish Speakers were all women.
I bet that smelled a little bit like fish.
It got interesting.
So all of Leto II's storyline is just nothing but fish. Why? Why fish?
Well, there's a lot of symbology in it. And one of the thoughts that I actually kind of agree with is the reason why he went with Fish Speakers was twofold. One, a throwback to Caladan, and also a reference to his beginning of his rule when he had the sand trout, which were named like a fish, but not really a fish.
It was a fish of the sand.
Yes.
A sandy trout.
So you get a lot of that internal references like that throughout. Now, again, a political intrigue everywhere. And getting back to what should have been in this movie with that banquet scene, one of the things that I was most disappointed that they didn't begin to touch on was actually the introduction between Paul and Urulan, the daughter of the Emperor. Because it was in conversations with between those two that you end up seeing both the outward face and also the background of the political structure of the Landsraad that we're introduced to. Starting to see how there's a reason why this franchise has been so fucking difficult to put to screen.
Yeah, there's just way too much.
But at the same
on screen within a reasonable time frame.
But at the same time, it makes for a great story. It makes for a great universe to delve into because there's a lot of fleshing out that Frank did. Even just in the 6 books he wrote, there was a lot of nuance, a lot of development, a lot of, shall we say, fun playing with ideas and how different factions would both operate internally and externally throughout the series. Which is why I really don't know why they, later in the series, they kept gulas of certain Lalaxu masters, but they were kind of needed. They had a useful purpose, but they were closest thing to racism you can find in that book. Well, in all of them.
God damn.
But with everything that we've said here now and everything that we've been explaining, how much do you feel like you actually got out of the movie?
Too fucking much.
What? Wait, no. Not how much was left out of the movie. How much did you actually get from the movie versus what's available in the source material?
I feel like I didn't get enough from that movie alone.
We're gonna have you watch the 1984 version, and then you can reassess which one you think is actually better based on just everything that you've heard today.
And we're gonna come back to this next week.
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Unless next week is Star Trek.
Well, technically next week
wait.
should be... Well, actually, no, we're taking the next
There's
2
nothing
weeks
next
off because of the
'cause-
holidays.
Yep.
Because we got Christmas next weekend and then New Year's after that. So, unless there is enough of a request for a midweek show, so we're talking either a Wednesday or Thursday night, after tonight we're going to be off air for a couple of weeks, but we'll still be available in the Discord. Ooh. You know what? How much more of a discussion do we want to have before we give that announcement, Leon?
I'm not entirely sure right now.
Okay, so this will be one where I will say, spoilers, there's updates coming. So we're going to do a bit of a test in the over the course of the next couple weeks. Because, well, holidays, I'll have time. Which, in early next year, we'll let you know how everything goes and how things are going to progress from there. Don't make me spend my holidays with the family. Oh, Dora, I know how you feel. That's why, like I said, we'll still be in the Discord server doing stuff there. So what are you thinking there, Jay, throughout all of this?
Again, as it's one of those topics I'm not the most familiar with because I, one, haven't read the books, and two, very limited exposure. I have found it interesting, the reactions of Cal the entire time listening, especially about the trout.
Wait, Leon, do we go back to the Lilaxu and what really goes on with them?
Do you mean the production facilities?
Well, I was thinking starting with the axolotl tanks, and also the Lilaxu are often asked a question that a lot of dwarfs in fantasy are asked.
Who does number 2 work for?
Close. It's more of, where are the women?
Oh.
Ah, yes. That whole thing about dwarven men and dwarven women in fantasy often looking so alike you mistake the women for men?
Oh no.
Oh, it's even worse for the Laxu because you don't see the women ever.
If you're lucky.
Unless you are a Lilaxu who works in certain parts of society. To say that their medical technology is so great because they're not using synthetic organs, they're using actual grown organs?
Oh no.
And how
Yep.
and how do you think those organs are grown?
Oh no, I don't like this.
And
Yes.
where do you think the ghoulas come from?
Oh no.
Or the subsequent editions of the Face Dancers, which, oh, those, that group, those are a fun set of fuckers, too.
The
That's a
face
chapter all by itself.
dancers.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
yes, that's another faction to get into, which, but, okay, so one of my, okay, so people out there know I often have a depraved sense of humor where things that should be disgusting and off-putting, I actually see some humor in just because of how outlandish they are. The Lilaxu are one of them, and one of their pet projects. So, you know how without spice, there is no Imperium? The spice must flow?
Yeah.
Well, one of the wonderful side story arcs that is very closely intertwined with the main story arc for a stretch there, the Lilaxu were trying to replicate and manufacture a replacement for the spice melange. And now that you know what their axolotl tanks are actually made of and what they actually use as the tank for their research and development, yeah.
I think it's safe to say that the Lilaxu are the masters of own defense. They're working it. They're making loads of money.
Now, funny thing with that replacement, the attempted, yeah, the attempted artificial replacement for the spice, they actually tested it on a guild navigator.
It didn't go well, did it?
They still don't know where that highliner ended up.
Oh. Suffice to say, it didn't work the way it was intended.
Well, imagine it like this. The navigator had been used to let's say, a mixture of just coke and weed his entire life, all the time, swimming around in it. All of a sudden, here comes this short motherfucker with this magical syringe that is a combination of heroin, LSD, and MDMA. A lethal dose.
Oh,
Well,
you're
next to
not
fucking
going to
lethal.
have a good time.
No. And Thierry has the sentiment from the lead of the project too when that experiment failed, where that test failed. The prototype was substandard.
Oh no! Oh no!
So not only were they devious little fucks, they were rather
Cheeky.
callous too.
Well, I mean, compared to the rest of the stuff they do, yeah, yes. Oh, dude. That's also something that does give Dune a lot of just character. Dune is a horrible fucking place. Well, the Dune universe is a horrible fucking place. There is a lot of shit happening in Dune. There's a lot of shit you would never want to happen anywhere close to you in Dune. And that's all part of the
It's
universe.
happening everywhere.
Yeah, but looking at some of the shit in Dune, like this isn't actually being brought up either. Maybe it will be brought up in part 2. Feyd-Rautha, the Baron's nephew, is very particular about his entertainment. He likes, for example, gladiator fights and being part of them. Which is, you take a bunch of, well, lowlives, drug them the fuck up, put them in the arena, and hope that the drugs will actually kick in, and they'll just be sniveling and cowering, because they can't really do anything else. He thinks that's fun. That's part of the book. There's a part where he's fighting against a gladiator, and Atreides' gladiator. I think it's a sergeant.
Oh.
I kind of think it's a sergeant that was captured and then brought to Gideon Prime.
Yeah.
And he almost has his fucking ass handed to him.
Yeah, someone didn't give him the full dose.
Oh, he didn't get anything. They just colored his skin.
Hmm.
So this gladiator here, with only half shield, and what was it? Well, half shield, and I think he had a sword as well. Against Feyd-Rautha, with I think he had a full shield. He had fucking barbs with wires hanging above them.
Well, and he had his poison tips on every blade.
No, he didn't have it on the white blade. That's supposed to be the clean one.
Mm.
Or vice versa. It's one of them. The one that was supposed to be poisoned was cleaned, and vice versa. And this slave here, just no drugs, anything like that, just somewhat slightly pissed, is going up against the guy. An Atreides slave, an Atreides gladiator. And the gladiator, when being stabbed in the arm with the barbs, proceeds to just take the string that's attached to the barbs and wrap it around his arm. He doesn't have anything else to actually use as armament. He only has his shield and a sword.
Well, not even a sword. Knife.
Oh, yeah. So he has his shield and a knife and goes against Feyd-Rautha, who has 2 blades and, plenty of barbs, and keeps going against him, and keeps fainting, and keeps getting closer and closer. Feyd, being, a cock a little bit, thinks that, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to be safe. Until he tries to, well, not stab, but he tries to slash a bit against the slave with the poison blade to get the slave to, calm down a little bit. And can't. because his blade crashes against or clashes against the barbs. The slave has managed to get himself almost a whole shield by using Fade's own weapons against him. And finally, the only thing that saved Fade Router was that a code word had been programmed into the slave. When he said scum, the slave froze for just a fraction of a second, at which point he managed to, well, slice him a little bit. Just barely nick him with the poison blade. And the poison started acting. The slave was starting to get all the issues from the neurotoxin, and he was dying. But before he could die, the slave fell over. Fade Router, being, really cocky about it, had the slave turned the slave over, only to find the slave on his own blade. He had denied Fade Router the victory by taking his own life, despite all the fuckery going on. And that's something that they need to bring that up in the book, in the movie. And if they do that right, it's going to be fucking great. If they don't, fuck them.
Yeah, even your mid-tier enlisted Atreides were something to behold.
Yeah, but they were vicious. Not to one another, not to their friends, not to their allies, but those going up against them. Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Oh, especially in that time frame, knowing the history and all of the wonderfulness that followed after the relocation and Atreides taking the fiefdom of Arrakis. Yeah. The few that were allowed to survive, they had a grudge.
Yes. Just a little bit of a grudge.
And did we even get to touch on the lacking of issue of explaining the mentats?
We didn't get around to that. We can. We have plenty of times. Oh, plenty of time. Okay. I think we need to actually lead this up with a question. Cal?
Yeah.
Do you remember why there were no thinking computers? Why there was no AI in Dune?
I know that at least when it was being compared in some YouTube video that I've forgotten about, when it was being compared to Warhammer 40k, that Dune was the first of the two properties to come up with the term abominable intelligence.
But what does it say in the movie?
I think that was one of those points that was also left out.
You can say nothing there because it wasn't.
Oh, it was. It was brought up.
It was?
Yes.
Oh,
in the very beginning. And they said that AI was essentially just abolished because it made people too lazy. Because of the way that people reacted to it. There wasn't anything about what actually happened. Nothing about the history. Let me see if I can find the screenshot here, because this needs to be brought up. This is just fucked up.
Yeah, I might have missed that part of the very intro, but the director's cut of the 1984 movie and the intro that we get there, much better, much more accurate. Long ago, before the establishment of the guild, man had grown to such hubris that they had crafted machine in the likeness of the human mind. And with that, they were allowed to pursue other avenues, thoughts, and ideals, and eventually turning over all menial labor to these new creations of theirs, ultimately becoming lazy until the point that the machines took over and enslaved them.
A machine uprising.
Yes. One of the titles of the historical trilogy is The Machine Crusade.
Oh.
But the actual formation of it that was portrayed in those books is man. Not only did man create an artificial intelligence, there was something else that happened along the way too. There is a sect that, in order to truly gain philosophical enlightenment, the technology had emerged where a disembodied brain could survive. Before that, there were also advances in medical technology which were painful to apply, but resulted in unnaturally long life and health. You had a group of people who were overly ambitious that not only went through the life extending program and regime, but also removed their brains from their physical bodies and placed them into a mechanized frame. The Cymex, the Titans. And they were of such intelligence, aggression, ambition, and capability that they took on the names of the Titans of old themselves.
Oh, such as Kronos?
And others of the Greek pantheon, and yeah. Those Cymex are the ones who took the artificial intelligence, created the singular core Evermind, Ominous. What a name, right?
Uh-huh.
And put it into place.
It would have been a little more appropriate for that to have been named Uranus. To keep with a naming convention.
Yeah. But think Ominous ended up being essentially a galactic-wide Skynet.
Oh, no.
And then enslaved the Cymex. But that whole law of robotics of an AI not being able to injure or harm its creator, that was actually in play between Ominous and the Cymex Titans. The way Ominous got around it was, oh, we're in this war. You guys are my generals. You're on the front line. I'm not injuring you, but if you die,
that's
oh well.
Not my problem. Yep. It's the creation cannot directly harm the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they should have gone with the Isaac Clarke one.
The
Isaac
Asimov? Yeah.
Yeah. They should have gone with that one because a robot is not allowed to directly or indirectly or by inaction allow a human being to come to harm.
But they weren't humans at that point. They were already Cymex.
Close.
Yeah, but so you have that framework where you end up having two factions of humanity. You have the free humanity, who kind of know about the machine worlds, but there's enough of a break because interstellar travel is not what it is later on. There is no fold space at this point. But because they're machine-based, and the machine worlds, the synchronized worlds, are able to spread faster than free humanity. And one of the synchronized worlds is Earth, with a large population of humans who are enslaved by the artificial life forms.
Ah, so Terminator.
And this is where the origin of House Atreides comes in.
Oh.
The founder of House Atreides is Vorian Atreides, who was an honored slave of one of the Titans.
A slave of a Titan?
Yes. He was one of the human slaves of the Simek Titan Agamemnon. During his time as a slave, Agamemnon was essentially grooming Atreides to be his successor. He saw the writing on the wall with Ominous and Erasmus. So Vorian Atreides got the life extensioning program, got a lot of the training, but at this point was still in his human form.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Serena Butler has been captured and brought to where Vorian Atreides is. He has the hots for her.
Oh, boy.
Serena Butler is married to a Harkonnen.
Oh, no.
Who at this time is actually a very honorable and, shall we say, epitome of actual gallantry and chivalry in that society. He's actually a good guy.
This is where the blood feud comes in.
We're not that quite at that point yet.
Oh, no. But it's close.
It's close. So when after her wedding, after her capture, when she's captured, Serena is pregnant. She gives birth to the child, Marion, if I remember right, is what they named him, after the child's grandfather, Serena's father. Erasmus, the android singular life form that works with Ominous, dropped the baby from a balcony, killing it. In front of a whole slew of human slaves that had come to know of Serena and actually almost venerated her. That was the moment that kicked off the human revolt. During that beginning of the revolt, Vorian took Serena and escaped the synchronized worlds and took her home.
Oh.
Over time, he ends up working with the military on the side of the humans against the thinking machines throughout the rest of the war. But towards the end of the war, he it's a descendant of that initial Harkonnen who really gets the shaft. And this is where the origin of the blood feud comes from.
Oh, no.
Harkonnen, they're one of the culminating battles that is a human victory happens. Vorian Atreides is there. A lot of the issues of the battle are blamed on a person that was a friend of his, who was the head of the House Harkonnen at that time. The Harkonnen gets portrayed as a coward. And that is the moment that starts the blood feud between House Harkonnen and House Atreides. It goes all the way back to the war against the thinking machines. It predates the guild and the known universe.
Oh.
I'm going to have to make a correction here, though. It wasn't set in the movie. It was set on that guy's channel, the Foundation for Economic Education.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of backstory.
Yeah, there really is.
Which you can kind of see now why, when we're looking at this movie, it's not just something where we're looking at it from one point of view and then thinking, oh yeah, I don't like this thing. This is something where if you don't actually keep this straight, you won't really have a story. You'll have a lot of different shit that just doesn't fit together. Which,
And they went with the latter.
yes. Which, given all this, is kind of what gets us to the mentats as well. Thinking machines are outlawed. What do you use instead? Well, you could just take humans, perhaps? Train them since they're children to be, well, extremely logical. And I'm not talking about logical in just in the sense of the word as they try to go through logic just on their own or by personality. But they are able to calculate things in their minds that you wouldn't often see anywhere with other people.
Think of someone who would put a Vulcan or Dr. Bashir to shame.
Oh, something more along the lines of Data from Next Generation?
Or is that, Jared? It's that they can get over the events of 100,000 years in seconds.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you're looking at a analytical thought processing power, yeah, probably on par with Data, or even better. Given in-universe timescales and processing time. Now, that's actually in the movie. Remember when you saw the guy's eyes like just go milk white?
Which guy?
Thufir.
Thufir?
Security? Short, chubby guy, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that was him going through the processes and running the calculations in his head.
He's one of those.
He is a mentat. This is one thing that they got right in 1984 with Dorf, who really is the true Piter de Vries, compared to the versions of the mentats we got in the current Dune movie. It's not just a little tattoo on the lip. The lips and surrounding the lips are stained by the juice of safu. There is actually a liquid aid that helps speed up their mental acuity.
Oh.
Matter of fact, there is a litany that was said by... Now, in the mentats, you have the regular mentats, and then you have the twisted mentats. And it was a twisted mentat that we get the litany of... it's by the juice of Safu.
It's just by will alone I set my mind in motion.
That was one of the lines, but there is more to it than that. It is by will alone that I set my mind in motion. It is by the juice of Safu that thoughts acquire speed, the lips acquire stains, the stains become a warning. It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. Now, the difference between a mentat and a twisted mentat. Twisted mentats are less humane.
Oh.
Well, some would perhaps say sociopathic.
Yeah. Do you remember the character of Suitor in Star Trek Voyager?
I don't think I've seen Voyager.
You're gonna have fun soon.
What?
Oh.
Like, the most Star Trek I've watched was with you guys and Deep Space Nine.
Oh, go ahead. Jay, pull up an image of
Yep.
Mr. Suitor. Because, and while you're at it, in another tab, pull up the 1984 version of Piter DeVries, too. Because I think Cal is going to like this connection.
Alright, hold on.
Oh yeah, so I pulled up a IMDb quotes page of just Brad Dourif's version of Piter DeVries, and after the that litany, it goes to a couple scenes later. As you instructed me, I have enlightened your nephews concerning my plan. Baron, my plan! The plan to crush the Atreides.
In just a second here.
Fucking Piter. It's just too bad about the, extreme halitosis.
Yeah, that kind of got him. Just a little bit.
Okay.
It's the spicy halitosis.
Oh. That part.
Yes.
Alright, so up first, Lawn Suitor.
An actual psychopath that's part of the crew of the Voyager, prior Maquis.
Okay.
Piter DeVries.
Ooh.
Same actor.
Ah.
1984?
97?
97
to early 2000s? Like 2002?
96. Yeah, this is the 96.
Well,
97 era.
yeah, so...
So he just likes being a psychopath.
He plays one exceptionally well.
It's just fucking sad that there isn't more Voyager. He deserved more than 2 episodes.
Yeah, and that was actually another bit to the story and world building that was missed is there was when Atreides arrived on Arrakis, they were looking for and trying to sort out and find all instances of sabotage, booby traps, anything left behind by the Harkonnens, knowing what was going to be coming up. And oh yes, the original Thufir.
Thought you'd enjoy that, Jared.
Yes.
His eyebrows.
They were majestic.
You're just jealous you can't rock the same eyebrows, Leon.
I would if I could. If I had eyebrows that I'd have to spend 10 minutes combing after getting out of the shower, I would.
You would meet Moose.
But a line you get from Thufir in the books and the 1984 movie that we did not get in this one is him being frustrated because we're finding all these sabotages too damn easy. The entire time, Thufir could sense that there was something wrong because it's too easy. There is something else at play. We should not be finding this stuff this damn easy.
It's just a distraction.
While Yui did his thing.
I'll be right back. I've got to go get stuff for dinner and cook before I get back for VTW, so I'll be back.
So yeah, Cal, are you interested in taking the time to actually dive into the source material now that you're we've only shown you a fraction of what's in there compared to what has been put to film.
I might actually have to read now.
Well, first you want to watch the 1984 movie.
And then I want to read all the books.
Yeah,
Yes.
that will end up okay, if you want to stick with all of the visual material, current movie does better in a lot of aspects visually, but it's an okay update, but you're missing a lot of story. But it's like dipping your toe in the water.
Yeah.
The 1984 movie, a lot of the visuals and costuming are actually closer to the description of that's in the books, for the most part. But you get a lot of dated stuff. You get it screams 80s at a lot of points, but you get more of the story. You get more of the actual meat of what was in the book.
I can live with the 80s graphics.
And then you have the 2000-2001 set of miniseries, which are damn near verbatim the books in the story. However, visuals and some of the acting leave a fuck ton to be desired.
Oh, so that's a travesty going in the opposite direction of the 2021 movie.
Oh, Leon, get that clip ready of the guild. You're gonna love this. We're not showing it on air because I don't want to deal with the fucking copyright claims. But Cal, we are gonna give you a link.
Oh boy!
To watch, and I want to hear your reaction to it.
It's a short one, so this should be fine.
It's short, yes.
Oh,
Are you ready, Cal?
Day. Kaloo Kalay.
There you go.
Yeah, go ahead and watch that. This is from the miniseries.
Oh, gotta unmute that first. Orders to your navigators. Depart our space. Return the fleet to its homes immediately. To look into the future. Oh God! Oh
Yeah.
God!
Don't you love the movements of that guild? The guild, God, what rank was he?
The
Ambassador?
Watch, go ahead and watch it again when you can, because you're going to get a better look if you pay attention to the little girl on the step below and to the left of Paul. That's Alia, his sister. The actress could not keep a straight face.
Oh no, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna see if I can catch her premeditating this shit.
Yeah, watch it muted, but pay attention to her.
Although,
Oh no, even before she's trying to not crack a smile, she knows it's coming.
I will say though, looking at this, the foremost guy there, the one in the front of the formation, his acting there, how he just looks unfocused. He looks like he isn't actually looking at, he's looking somewhere in the general direction of it. And just his facial expression and everything, up until the hands.
The fucking
It's
hands.
actually really good.
Oh, and that's the thing. The miniseries was such an amazing mix of good and bad acting from the same people in the same scene. You get a lot of instances where it's like, hey, this little bit was great, but then you followed it up with this.
Let's see here. We've got from left to right the back right flank, the mid right flank, and the front left flank people all staring directly into the camera. We have front right and back left looking at their lead element going, what the fuck? And then there's the guy mid left flank just wondering what the fuck he's doing with his life.
Yeah. So Rodent just posted, if I recall, Alia was laughing at all the power players in the book. She knew what was coming and how wrong their outlook was. That's partly correct. Alia knew what the hell was coming up because, well, when you're born a Reverend Mother, you kind of have a certain new view of things. But when it came to composing herself, she wasn't keeling over with laughter during the interaction. She held a little more of a stately decorum in the instances where it was actually kind of called for. She may have chuckled, but she wasn't bending over from the laughter like she wasn't, like the actress was in that scene. But the moments that end up following from the story in that, especially around Alia, is just, oh, Cal, you're in for a treat the more you go into this.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There are going to be a lot of head-scratching moments. There are going to be a lot of what the fuck moments. Oh. Should we tell them about the chair dogs?
The
Yes.
chair dogs? Oh no.
You know what? We're already over the 2-hour mark, so yes. Yes, audience, there are things called chair dogs in Dune. Look them up. Have fun. We'll see you all soon.
Well,
Bye, I guess.